Andrew, there is that saying, don't get burned by the same fire twice. So we're reading this morning that, and it has been expected, capital gains tax and negative gearing back on the government agenda. Is it, according to your sources?
Not so sure. And I think the Prime Minister will hose it this morning. Having said that, why wouldn't you hose it if you're thinking about it, but maybe not going to do it as an election promise? I think what's interesting and what makes it possible is the fact it could be multiple properties and grandfathered, as opposed to across the board, which obviously didn't work. The only way it could work politically, by the way, is if you redistributed it to tax cuts. Now, they don't want to give tax cuts to the higher end, whereas the coalition do.
Yeah.
Now, the whole reason people negatively gear at the moment is because they're getting taxed so much at the higher end.
Yeah.
So it kind of doesn't make sense if you don't return it. Look, I think it might be something Jim Chalmers is investigating.
This is a kite?
But another kite. Now, Jim Chalmers, of course, would be buoyed by what he did with the stage 3 tax cuts. This wouldn't be breaking an election promise because you take it to an election. That was breaking an election promise and he got away with it. And he did it by distributing it further down at the bottom end. Now, in opposition, Jim Chalmers put a proposal to rejig the stage 3 tax cuts. And he wanted to split it 3 ways. One third to tax cuts, 1/3 to spending, 1/3 to consolidated revenue. They kicked that into touch. So it's not unknown, is what I'm saying, for Jim Chalmers to float these kites, to go and get this sort of research done by Treasury. But a senior government source has said to me about this story this morning, it's, quote, much ado about nothing. If they, being Treasury, have looked at anything, it's just what they do. And of course, we know the Greens are demanding those changes, so why wouldn't they model them? So, look, I'm not going to sit here and say this will never ever happen. That's a job for the Prime Minister at his press conference this morning if he wants to.
Yeah.
But I am saying I think the Prime Minister will hose it down. And if there is thinking about it, it's nowhere near solidified.
Isn't making the same mistake twice, isn't it? Definition of stupidity.
Well, have you ever heard of the
Einstein?
1993 GST campaign followed by the 1998 one, Pete? I mean, you can actually go back to a policy as long as you frame it differently.
Yeah.
Right? Now, they're framing last time, which would be a disaster this time in the context of how much they're said to be spending, is to put it all into spending.
Yeah.
But what if they put some of it into tax cuts? I mean, how many people actually have 2 negatively geared properties?
Well,
a lot of people have
7
one.
properties.
Yeah, well, maybe we should just tax the politicians. But look, I think that's the consideration. I think this gives us a general hint. If they're coming forward with some sort of policy, they're not going to take it from, like tax cuts, they're not going to take it from consolidated revenue. They're going to find a source to justify it.
All right. Let's go to this other story. It's a good one today. So there's going to be some pretty good data. And we haven't had great data lately, but we'll probably get it today. If the inflation rate drops to 2.7%, that's the expectation at this stage, according to economists. Oh, that's the RBA target range. Yeah, so we've hit it. But there's a but here.
I think it'll be 3 or 2.9. But anyway, it's a monthly figure.
The point remains.
And, the Treasurer would normally be going, look at us, we're killing it, we're on the narrow path. Except for this, have a look at this statement from the RBA yesterday. Talk about raining on someone's parade, saying you're not getting your good headline, buddy. Michelle Bullock, it's her whole board, actually. Headline inflation is expected to fall further temporarily, as a result of federal and state cost of living relief. In other words...
She's telegraphed it.
In other words, there's still inflation. She says, however, our current forecasts do not see inflation returning sustainably to target until 2026. Looking forward to my rate cuts in 2026, Pete. You can see what they're doing here. They're saying, screw you, which is interesting because Jim Chalmers had breakfast in Sydney with Michelle Bullock for an hour last week, so I don't know what happened there. But essentially, I guess everyone has to cover themselves. And they're saying, don't fall for the budget trick. The thing is, the budget forecast was for inflation below 3% by the end of the year. That may turn out from what we're seing, but the Reserve Bank's saying that's artificial because of your electricity bill relief and that sort of thing.
In 26, not 25?
I think it said sustainably.
Right.
So I think you still get one in mid-2025 or something.
I can't wait for my hair to be grey by then.
I mean, look, essentially I said yesterday, and I'll say it again today, and I noticed newspaper columnists saying it, I think, very good chance Peter Dutton's in the lodge if there's not a rate cut before the election. I mean, I just can't see Australians copying this. They're going to say, well, look, we like to give a government a second chance, but maybe these other guys can do better because we've copped this high rate environment for so long and we're just suffering. We're in pain.
Good one. Okay. It's a hot day when it comes to political reporting, that's for sure.
Oh, well,
there's a bit going on, as
that's what we're here
always.
for.
That's what we're here for, yeah. And you're the best at it, Andrew Clennell. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.